We know that there is no genetic precursor to mental illness. There is no genetic precursor to ADHD. There is no genetic precursor to depression and no genetic precursor to anxiety.
What do you mean by precursor?
Meaning there's no genetic connection. You don't get it in your genes. If your father or your mother were depressed, you get it by something called the inheritance of acquired characteristics. If you're raised by a depressed parent, you're more likely to become depressed. It's the nature-nurture argument.
Are you optimistic about the United States at the moment?
The United States is very much a big picture. It definitely has this debt money economy problem. We can get into that. It definitely has the internal conflict power in which there's a fight between the left, the hard left and the right due to wealth and values gaps and people not believing that the system will work for them. And so democracy is at risk. They're not going to follow the rules. Number three, it's of course the leading one side in this great power conflict of the world between the United States and the one side, let's say, and China and the allies on the other side. It's always better to be in a place that's not in one of those. And of course, climate has an effect. And of course, then we have technology. The United States and China are in the big technology competitions.
What happens in that meeting? Is it the boys? Is it representatives?
It was us boys, which was great. The room felt cold that day. I can remember that. These are all the same faces that I've seen every single day, but I'd never quite felt an energy like that in the room. There was this emptiness. We all knew collectively where it was going. The thing that really bothered me, I remember saying well, if I'm going to try and do some stuff on my own, I was like, it'd be good to know how long this break's going to be for. So let's speculate. A year, 2 years, 5 years, 15 years? I never really got an answer to that question, which I understand now because the people or person involved was brave enough to answer that question deep down. I think they probably knew the reality.
And does Simon try and persuade you back into the band?
After about 2 years of One Direction, absolutely nobody could tell it. He was never involved in those kind of decision makings. In fact, he was smart enough to realize that would rub us up the wrong way.
Someone's listening now. How much money do you think they should, at a minimum, have saved?
If you try to get technical about it, I would say, what are the odds that at some point in your life, you're going to lose your job and not be able to find another job for 6 months? The odds are not bad that will happen to you at some point. Not very comfortable to think about, but the odds that at some point that will happen are pretty good. And therefore, if you were to say, look, a good measure of a medium level of independence is I could keep myself going for 6 months. Now, for a lot of people, that's a daunting task. It's going to take some savings to get there. One of the important things there is when you lose that job, the ability to go find a good job, even a better job, is very important. If you don't have any savings, you're going to have to, by default, pick the very first job that you can come across, even if it's a terrible job in a location that you hate, doing something you hate, working with people you don't like. And so the flexibility to give yourself time to find a job that is a little bit easier and better for you, that is the purpose of savings.
I'm a brainwashing expert, and I am personally terrified of short-form social media like that. And I'm one of the best in the world, and I am not immune to it. And I think that should be a stark warning for a lot of people.
What's the cost, though?
I think the cost is increased loneliness. Any app that sells ads has two main goals. Number one, make you compare yourself to other people in unhealthy ways. Number two, make you think, I am not enough. And we see that everywhere. I'm not enough. I'm comparing myself to other people. And it gets us into an us versus them. Then it traps you into a corner of confirmation bias. Whatever you think, I'm going to show you this group of 150 people that agree with you, no matter how radical, how absolutely bizarre your ideas are. Let me show you all of these people. And then you start thinking the whole world's like that.
What makes great relationships great is not that you get along all the time. The best marriages, the best relationships, they're not absent of conflict. It's they know how to resolve conflict peacefully.
My friend was drinking a can of Coca-Cola and I picked it up and I looked at the back of it and it said the sugar quantity in it was something like 40%. So 40% of it is just sugar and people are just...
That's why we have a fatty liver disease pandemic.
Sugar's fundamentally linked to things like cancer as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Are we seeing cancers growing?
Oh, absolutely. And people getting cancer earlier and earlier, especially colorectal cancer. My God, the mean age of colorectal cancer used to be 50 to 55. We are seeing patients with colorectal cancer in their 30s and early 40s. This is why.
Because of
sugar. That's a huge problem.
People that do have a faith are happier, healthier. And people can argue as to why that is,
Hey, try to be clear in this. I'm not trying to convert people to go, no, you should believe in God. Blah, blah, blah. There's plenty enough to go. I get it with religion that excludes a certain amount of people that I cannot go there. I cannot purchase the belief that some people of faith have, which is, well, if you don't believe Jesus is the only Son of God, and that's it, then you're going to hell. But it's when religion has become exclusionary along the way that let's remember, we bastardized it. You know where religion comes from? The word? Religion is from the Latin root ligare. Ligare means to bind together. Re means again. Religion is about restoration. Got a bunch of spiritual friends who say they're not religious, and know what they're telling me is they want unity. That's what religion means. We bastardized it along the way. We made it a business. Maybe it's not religion we're mad at. Maybe we need to restore what that means. Restore its original meaning and live that way instead of just accepting what it's become.
There is a generation yet to be born, but in the very near future, who every year you can expect to live 1 month longer because knowledge about human physiology has gotten better. Just think about it that way. There will come a day where every year that you're alive, medicine has figured out a way for you to live an extra year. That's the escape velocity. So every year you live another year. And after that, it could be every year you live 2 years. So that's the escape velocity. So it's not just everybody lives forever today. It sort of works its way into the population.
If you were to go out running and your heart didn't speed up, you would be in big trouble and potentially die. It doesn't happen because your heart automatically speeds up and pumps more blood that you need. And that's controlled by the autonomic or automatic nervous system. It has two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. They have to be in balance. And we've invented hundreds of healing systems to try to rebalance the autonomic nervous system. Massage, biofeedback, homeopathy, chiropractic manipulation, osteopathic manipulation, acupuncture, relaxation, biofeedback. How do you think all these things make people feel better? At least to some degree, it's to the degree they help rebalance the autonomic nervous system. The most powerful way to rebalance the autonomic nervous system, in my experience, is fasting. Fasting is a profound impact on this autonomic sympathetic parasympathetic balance.
What is the biggest lie that you think is ruining most people's life?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is that people think that health comes from pills, potions, powders, and treatments instead of healthful living. Health is the direct result of healthful living, and that means diet, sleep, exercise.
But they're hard, especially in the world we live in where everything I see is trying to play with the neurotransmitters in my brain to get me to be addicted and to...
People are trying to sell the pleasure trap. They're trying to tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. What you want to hear is that there's a way to not do hard things, but still get good benefits. And what you need to know is how to do hard things so you can be successful.
When you're in law enforcement, you're seeing people at their worst. You are seeing the worst of humanity. That is one of the toughest jobs. Even with military, they go to war. That's atrocious. But you go, you do your tour, and you're out. And then maybe you go back, but you get reprieve. Law enforcement, you're doing this for your entire career. Every single day, you are seeing the worst in humanity. People are lying to you. They're committing crimes. Like, you really could lose a lot of faith. You really could become really cynical. It's actually a common trait in law enforcement, so you have to be really careful to not become overly cynical because you're seeing the worst of people. And again, you're also typically not dealing with the good citizen. You're dealing with people who are consistently committing crimes. If you look at crime in general, the vast majority of crime, it's committed by the same group of people.
If I was to have a baby now, how would my brain, my body, how would it change?
It would change in two ways. So first of all, we see hormonal changes. The most studied, and I think probably the most significant, is the drop in testosterone that occurs when you become a father. So when a man enters a long-term relationship for the first time, he will experience a drop in testosterone. Because testosterone is a really great chemical if you're dating, because it makes you more competitive and it makes you more attractive. When you become a father for the first time, it drops again, and it can be up to 30%. And the reason for that, again, is we need you to focus in on the family. We can't have you looking to the horizon for another mate. Testosterone is also, when it's very high, it blocks the bonding hormones. So dopamine and oxytocin in particular have less of an effect. So we need to release those hormones as soon as we can. One of the ways we do that is if testosterone drops, so oxytocin and dopamine are more effective. Just generally from studies, men with lower testosterone tend to be more motivated to care for children.
I will give anybody listening one big piece of advice that I've passed down to my kids. If you are exposed to a product that can't tell you the problem that they're solving, you need to be terrified. Absolutely terrified. If I look at DoorDash, Uber Eats, they get food to me faster. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to do anything. I can continue writing my book or doing something on my computer and the food just shows up. They tell you the problem that they're solving. Look at Amazon. They can tell you all the problems they're solving. But you look at something like Apple Vision Pro. They can't tell you. You will never see it. And you look at Facebook Meta, these AR goggles. None of them will ever tell you the problems that they're trying to solve because it's loneliness. People needing to anesthetize themselves from being in their own life. And we are in a loneliness epidemic. We've never been more connected, but we've never had more loneliness than is in the world right now. And there's so many products that seem great, but they can't articulate what they're really solving. And it's usually loneliness, boredom, or a need to anesthetize myself.
If you have humans cut back their salt considerably, they become insulin resistant. So take a healthy group of humans, say you you need to eat less salt. And they do so. If you measure them a week later while they're adhering to this, they will be significantly more insulin resistant than before they ever cut back their salt. It's one of the ironies of the whole scenario where a physician may be telling a patient with high blood pressure, you need to cut back your salt. And they end up eating less salt, and yet their blood pressure gets worse. It's because the main contributor to high blood pressure is insulin resistance. And by telling them to cut back on their salt, you made them more insulin resistant. And that whole mechanism is because one of insulin's many, many effects is to want the body to hold on to salt and water. And so if you start cutting your salt, all of a sudden insulin says, well, there's little salt coming in. I need to do what I can to retain whatever salt we do have.
And when you look at resilient people, they don't have all the answers and they don't need to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I don't need them to be okay. And this is where you embrace that uncertainty. You don't have to have all the answers. And that by itself is powerful. Like, you don't need to figure it out. You don't need to know what to do right away. Leave it. Sit in it. Be in it. Then when it's time, you move through.